Every morning, you do the same small thing. You fill the feeder. Maybe it's still dark out. Maybe the coffee isn't even ready yet. And you step into the cold and tip the seed in and go back inside. It takes 90 seconds. You probably don't think of it as anything at all. But out in the trees at the edge of your yard, something has been paying very close attention, not to the feeder, to you. When you do the same thing, in the same place, at the same time, every single day, the birds in your yard begin to learn you, your shape, your schedule, the sound of your door. And after enough mornings, they stop waiting for the food to appear, and they start waiting for you. Welcome back to Backyard Bird Feeder. If you're new here, subscribe before you go, because what you're about to learn will change the way you feel every time you walk out to fill that feeder. Today, we're going to walk through exactly what happens when you feed the same birds every day. How fast they find you, how they learn your face, what they actually do with the seed you give them, and the one question almost everyone who feeds birds quietly worries about, finally answered by the science. Stay until the end, because the last thing we cover is how a wild bird decides you are safe enough to land on. It's closer than you think. 1. They find you faster than you'd ever guess. Let's start on day 1. You hang a brand new feeder, and for a while, nothing. An empty yard, a full feeder, and you wondering if anyone is ever going to come. Here's what's actually happening in that silence. Birds find feeders mostly by sight, and their eyesight is extraordinary. They see colour far more vividly than we do. They're drawn to bright tones, and a bird in flight can pick out the shape of a feeder from a remarkable distance, sometimes hundreds of feet away while passing overhead. But the real engine isn't one bird's eyes. It's the whole network. Birds watch each other. When one bird finds food and feeds without trouble, every other bird nearby reads it as a signal. This place is safe, and there's something here worth having. Scientists call it local enhancement, and it's why a feeder so often goes from completely empty to genuinely busy in a matter of days. The first visitor isn't really a customer. The first visitor is an advertisement, and it crosses species lines. Your backyard birds don't travel alone. Chickadees, nuthatches, titmice, and finches move through the neighborhood in loose, mixed flocks, and they eavesdrop on each other constantly. So the moment one chickadee discovers your feeder, the news doesn't stay with the chickadees. It spreads outward, bird to bird, species to species, until your quiet yard has quietly become a destination. You didn't just put out food. You put yourself on a map that dozens of birds are now sharing with each other. 2. They learn your schedule, and they start to expect you. Here's where it stops being about the feeder and starts being about you. Birds are capable of something researchers call time-place learning. They don't just remember where the food is, they remember when. A bird can learn that a particular place becomes worth visiting at a particular time of day, and it will arrange its morning to be there for it. This sits on top of a daily rhythm they already run on. Birds are governed by an internal clock, and feeder activity tends to surge in the first hours after dawn, then again in the late afternoon, the 2 windows when they most need to eat. Now put that together with your 90-second morning routine. You come out at roughly the same time every day, and you do roughly the same thing. The birds, already primed to feed at that hour, begin to fold you into their schedule. After enough mornings, they aren't arriving to a full feeder by luck. They're already there, waiting. On the branch nearest the door, before you've even opened it. People see that and assume it's a coincidence. It isn't. It's memory. You have become a reliable event in their day, and they have rearranged their morning around you. 3. They know your face. This is the part most people find genuinely hard to believe the first time they hear it. The birds don't just know the feeder. Many of them know you. Specifically you. The clearest evidence comes from crows. In a now famous series of experiments at the University of Washington, researchers wore distinctive masks while briefly trapping and banding crows, then walked the same campus afterward. The crows remembered. They recognized and scolded the exact face that had threatened them, and they kept recognizing it for years. It goes deeper than memory. When researchers looked at what was happening inside a crow's brain, they found that a threatening human face and a caring one travel through different neural pathways. The crow isn't just noticing a person, it's sorting them, friend or threat. And in that study, the caring face belonged to the people who had fed them. Crows also share their verdict. A crow that has decided a specific person matters can pass that recognition to other crows, including young ones who have never personally met you. Your reputation isn't held by a single bird. It travels through the local population. You might be thinking that crows are exceptional. They are. But this ability isn't theirs alone. Wild jackdaws can learn individual human faces. Even small songbirds, like the robin, have been shown in studies to tell one person from another. So when the bird at your feeder turns its head and looks straight at you, and you feel for a second that it's actually looking at you, you're very likely right. To that bird, you are not scenery. You are a known face, filed under safe by the one who brings the food. 4. Your seed becomes part of how they remember winter. Here's something that happens to the seed you put out that almost no one thinks about. A lot of it is never eaten in front of you. It's hidden. Chickadees are hoarders. Every autumn, a single chickadee will hide away, one piece at a time. Thousands of individual food items tucked into bark, under leaves, in 100 secret spots across its territory. And then, through the hardest part of winter, it remembers where it put them. The way it does this is almost hard to believe. In autumn, the part of the chickadee's brain responsible for spatial memory, the hippocampus, physically grows. The season demands more memory, so the brain builds more of it. And that memory isn't a party trick. Researchers have found that chickadees with better spatial memory actually live longer. In a world that cold and that unforgiving, remembering where the food is hidden is the difference between surviving the winter and not. So think about what that means for your feeder. The seed you tip in on a grey January morning doesn't just feed a bird for a minute. Some of it gets carried off and hidden across the neighbourhood, woven into a map that bird is holding in a brain that grew specifically to hold it. You aren't a snack. You're becoming part of how these birds survive the winter. 5. The question you've quietly worried about, answered. If you feed birds, there's a thought that has probably crossed your mind. Maybe a neighbour said it. Maybe you just felt it on a morning you couldn't get out there. Am I making them dependent on me? If I stop, if I go away, if I forget, will they have forgotten how to survive without me? Here is the answer, and it should let you breathe. They will be fine. Researchers studied this directly. There was a feeder that had been kept full for 25 years, a whole generation of birds that had never known a winter without it. The scientists took it away, and the chickadees that had relied on that feeder survived just as well as the birds that never had one. No collapse, no helplessness. They are wild animals, and the feeder was always a supplement, never a crutch. You are not making them dependent on you. But that does not mean you don't matter, and this is the part that makes the daily ritual quietly meaningful. The same body of research shows that on the hardest days, supplemental food genuinely saves lives. In one classic study, 69% of chickadees with access to a feeder made it through the winter, compared with just 37% without. And the difference came almost entirely from the cruelest stretches, the brief, savage cold snaps when wild food disappears, and a tiny bird is only hours from running out of fuel. Hold both of those facts at once, because together they're the whole truth of what you're doing. They don't need you, and on the coldest, darkest mornings of the year, you are the reason some of them live to see the spring. That isn't dependence, it's something better. 6. Feeding every day is a kind of promise, so keep it well. If the birds are folding you into their schedule and their survival, then feeding every day stops being only a hobby and becomes a small responsibility. The good news is it's an easy one to keep. A feeder where birds gather is also a place where disease can pass between them. Illnesses like salmonella and housefinch eye disease spread mainly through droppings landing in the food. So the single most important thing you can do is keep it clean. Wash your feeder about every 2 weeks, more often in wet weather or heavy use, with soapy water, then a rinse of 1 part bleach to 9 parts water, and let it dry completely before you refill it. And if you ever see a sick or dying bird at your feeder, take it down and leave it down for at least a month after the last sick bird you see, so the gathering place doesn't become the thing that spreads the illness. 2 more quick things. Fill it with black oil sunflower seed if you want the widest range of birds, because it's the one seed nearly everyone at the feeder will eat. And just check that feeding is allowed where you live, since a few places restrict it. That's the whole job. Keep it clean, keep it filled, and you've kept your end of the bargain. And finally, how a wild bird decides you're safe enough to land on. Everything we've talked about, the recognition, the schedule, the memory, has been quietly building toward one thing: trust. And trust, with a bird, comes down to a single ingredient: consistency. If you want to feel all of this in the most direct way there is, a wild bird landing on your open hand, here is how it actually happens. It's less a trick than an act of patience. Put out a single feeder, so all the attention is in one place. Fill it once each morning at the same time. Then start by simply being there. Sit still near the feeder and let them get used to your shape and your stillness. Day by day, move a little closer until one morning you're standing right beside it. Then, when they've stopped minding you at all, you hold out a little seed in your open palm and you wait. It won't happen the first day, or maybe the first week. The whole thing runs on one rule: no sudden moves, no surprises, the same calm presence every single time. Trust is just consistency, repeated until it becomes belief. And more often than not, the first one brave enough to land is a chickadee. When it finally happens, when something wild and free that could be anywhere in the world comes down out of the open sky and stands on your hand, you'll understand what that 90 seconds every morning was really building. Because the truth is, the birds in your yard never had to choose you. There are countless other yards, countless other feeders. They learned your face, they learned your schedule, they wove you into how they survive the winter, and every morning they come back to you anyway. You didn't just feed them. Without ever quite meaning to, you became part of their world. Tell me in the comments, has a bird ever started waiting for you? A familiar one, at the same branch, the same time, every morning? I read every single one, and I'd love to hear about yours. I'll see you in the next one.